What if I told you that every moment of your life, your safety, your freedom, your opportunities, and even your perception of truth are shaped by 4 invisible pillars? Pillars so powerful that when they fail, entire nations collapse. Pillars you rarely see, yet they decide what you can do, what you can say, and in some cases, who you can become. Most people think they live in a free society guided by their own choices. But what if the real choices were already made long before you entered the world? And what if the structure running your society is far more fragile and far more calculated than anyone dares to admit? Today, we peel back the curtain on the system that governs your life. In every country, in every era, one question remains constant. How does society function without falling apart? What keeps millions of people from descending into chaos? What maintains order in unpredictable human behavior? And what ensures that you can wake up every morning knowing your rights, your security, and your identity are protected? The answer is simple in words, but incredibly complex in reality: the system. Yet, despite living under it every day, most people never truly understand it. They see pieces, a news headline here, a political debate there, a court judgment, a new law, but rarely do they understand the deeper machinery that makes it all work. And that's dangerous, because in today's world, where misinformation moves faster than truth and institutions face increasing distrust, a society that doesn't understand its own system becomes vulnerable. Vulnerable to manipulation, to confusion, to frustration, and to division. Most people know the terms: legislature, administration, judiciary, and media. But very few know how these 4 pillars actually interact, how they check and balance each other, and how they collectively hold civilization upright. In this documentary, we're not giving you a textbook explanation. We're giving you the inside reality, the psychological forces, the hidden mechanisms, the real purpose behind each pillar, and how the system shapes your daily life more profoundly than you imagine. Stay with me, because once you understand how the system truly works, you will never look at society the same again. The central idea of this video is this: a system is a structured network of power designed to manage human behavior, maintain order, and distribute authority in a predictable way. It's not a theory, it's the foundation of every modern nation. But here's the twist: the system on paper is not always the system in practice. In theory, every branch has a clearly defined role. In reality, every branch has influence, pressure, and loopholes. In theory, the system protects the people. In reality, it also protects itself. This is where society becomes fascinating. Humans are emotional, ambitious, fearful, and unpredictable. So the system acts like a psychological container shaping behavior, incentivizing cooperation and discouraging chaos. It doesn't just tell people what to do, it tells them what to believe, what to value, and what to fear. The system is not just political, it is human. It reflects our best qualities: justice, order, progress, and our worst: corruption, bias, manipulation. To understand society, to understand power, you must understand all 4 pillars: legislature, administration, judiciary, and media, because together they form the architecture of civilization. To understand today's system, let's go back to a world without one. Imagine ancient societies, tribes, kingdoms, empires where a single ruler decided everything. Decisions were emotional, unpredictable, and personal. Justice depended on the ruler's mood. Information was controlled by the elite, and laws were flexible, often bent to serve power, not fairness. But as populations grew, this approach collapsed. You simply can't govern thousands, let alone millions, based on personal judgment. Kingdoms needed structure, rules, and fairness, not just force. They needed a system. As civilizations evolved, they separated power into branches to prevent absolute dictatorship. The idea was revolutionary. Instead of one man ruling everything, the legislature would create laws. The administration would implement them. The judiciary would interpret them. And the media later in history would keep all of them accountable. This wasn't just political evolution, it was psychological evolution. Humans finally realized power must be divided if society is to remain free. This remains true today, yet understanding how this division actually works requires deeper exploration. People often think society works because of laws, but that's only half the story. Society works because people believe the system is legitimate. They believe their rights are protected. They believe their voice matters. They believe justice exists. The moment that belief collapses, civilizations crumble. Psychologically, humans fear disorder. We fear unpredictability more than almost anything. So the system becomes a comfort zone, an invisible guardian keeping life stable. Even when people complain about the system, even when they criticize it, they still depend on it. Without a legislature, rules become unclear. Without administration, services collapse. Without judiciary, justice becomes a privilege. Without media, truth becomes optional. The system works not because it's perfect, but because it provides people a sense of structure. The tragedy is that many people don't see this until the system breaks. Now let's look at the first pillar, the legislature. This is the branch where laws are born, debated, shaped, and passed. It's often called the voice of the people, though the reality is more complex. Think of the legislature as the mind of the system. It defines the rules of society, what is legal, what is illegal, what is acceptable, and what is unacceptable. It creates the blueprint of how a nation should function. But here's where it becomes interesting. When lawmakers debate a bill, they're not just debating words on paper, they're debating the future of millions. A decision in the legislature can change how businesses operate, how families live, how education works, and how justice is delivered. In theory, lawmakers represent the people. In reality, they represent voters, parties, ideologies, and sometimes interests behind the scenes. This is why legislative power is both beautiful and dangerous. A good law can uplift a nation. A bad law can damage generations. Laws define what society rewards and what society punishes, and people adapt their behavior accordingly. That's why the legislature is the mind. It thinks, it reasons, it imagines, it decides how society should evolve. If the legislature is the mind, the administration is the body. It executes decisions, runs institutions, manages public services, and ensures the country doesn't fall into chaos. Administration is everything you don't see but depend on. The police who maintain order. The teachers who educate the young. The civil officers who manage resources. The departments that build roads, manage hospitals, collect taxes, and enforce safety. People often misunderstand this pillar. They think administration is just bureaucracy. But administration is what turns ideas into reality. A law is just ink on paper until someone implements it. And that someone is the administrative system. However, administration faces a unique challenge. It must follow rules written by people who often don't understand the complexity of real-life implementation. This creates tension. Laws may be idealistic, administration must be realistic. And within this tension lies one of the biggest truths of society. A system fails not when laws are bad, but when administration becomes weak. When administration collapses, chaos fills the vacuum. If the legislature is the mind, and the administration is the body, then the judiciary is the conscience. This pillar ensures that laws are fair, correctly applied, and in harmony with constitutional values. It protects individuals from abuse of power and prevents the other pillars from crossing their limits. Think about this. At any moment, a citizen can stand before a judge and challenge the government. That concept alone separates free societies from authoritarian ones. The judiciary interprets laws, resolves disputes, and delivers justice. But here's where the story becomes profound. Justice is not just about punishment. It is about balance. It is about dignity. It is about clarity. People trust the system when they trust the courts. Without trust, laws become meaningless, administration becomes corruptible, and society becomes fearful. Yet judicial systems worldwide face pressure, political influence, case overloads, slow processes, and public expectations. The judiciary stands at the crossroads of law and humanity. It must be unbiased, yet human, strong, yet compassionate, strict, yet fair. The judiciary is not just a pillar. It is the mirror of a nation's character. And now, the most dynamic pillar, the media. Traditionally, media wasn't part of the official three-branch structure, but over time it became essential. Why? Because media is the eyes, ears, and sometimes the voice of society. Media observes the legislature, scrutinizes the administration, questions the judiciary, and exposes what the public needs to know. It shapes narratives, exposes corruption, highlights injustice, and gives a platform to issues that might otherwise be buried. But here's the paradox. The same media that informs people can also mislead them. The same media that empowers society can divide it. The same media that reveals truth can distort it. In a world of fast information, media has become both a watchdog and a battleground. Algorithms, sensationalism, political influence, and corporate interests create a new kind of challenge. But despite flaws, one thing remains true. Without media, the system becomes blind. With media, the system becomes transparent. The fourth pillar doesn't create laws, doesn't execute them, doesn't interpret them, but it influences how the public perceives all three, and perception is power. Most people misunderstand the system because they see outcomes, not processes. They see scandals, not structures. They see problems, not origins. And they often believe myths. The government controls everything. The judiciary is always slow. Media is always biased. Administration is corrupt. Systems succeed when people inside them act with integrity. They fail when people put personal interest above collective well-being. People also misunderstand how interconnected these pillars are. When the legislature becomes weak, bad laws emerge. When administration becomes corrupt, good laws fail. When judiciary loses trust, justice collapses. When media becomes irresponsible, truth becomes distorted. Understanding society requires seeing all four pillars as one living organism. To live intelligently in society, we must develop new awareness. First, we must stop seeing the system as a distant machine and start seeing it as a structure that affects our rights, our opportunities, and our future. We need to learn to question not emotionally but analytically. Whenever a law is passed, ask, who benefits, who loses, what changes in daily life? Whenever administration fails or succeeds, observe. Was it lack of resources, lack of training, or lack of integrity? Whenever a court gives a verdict, consider. What principle was protected? What precedent was set? Whenever media reports something, question. Is this information complete, balanced, and verified? We must learn to notice patterns: who speaks for society, who acts for society, who judges for society, and who informs society. Because once you understand these patterns, you protect yourself from manipulation, misinformation, and blind trust. The mindset shift is simple but powerful. Don't react to the system, learn to read it. An aware citizen is a protected citizen. An aware mind is impossible to control. So what is the system? It is the grand architecture of human civilization, the rules that guide us, the institutions that protect us, the processes that hold society together. The legislature writes the vision, the administration brings it to life, the judiciary guards its fairness, the media keeps it transparent. 4 pillars, one structure, billions of lives influenced every single day. Understanding the system doesn't make you cynical, it makes you empowered. It gives you clarity, it gives you insight, it gives you the ability to see beyond noise, beyond narratives, beyond manipulation. If there is one message to take from this documentary, let it be this. A strong society is not built by powerful systems. It is built by aware citizens who understand the systems. And as you walk away from this video, remember this final truth. A society that understands its system cannot be easily controlled, but a society that ignores it always will be.